Great Falls is known for a lot of things. Wide open spaces, beautiful river, friendly folks, and maybe even Sasquatch. On this episode of We're No Damn Experts, we're sitting down with a Bigfoot researcher to talk about sightings and strange encounters in and around the Great Falls area. Whether you're a true believer or maybe just here for some weird stories, we've got something hairy for you coming up.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You want to get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you want to go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth,
and we're No Damn Experts. I really do enjoy this trend. What I thought was going to happen today, I don't believe is going to happen today with our guest. So Shannon, tell me, I know who's in the studio, but tell our guests who's in the studio and what are we doing today on the podcast?
Yeah, okay. We have Bridger Lutz.
Close
dang
enough.
It. I messed it up again. No. You correct me. Say it correctly.
Bridger Lutz.
Lutz. I was thinking Foots, but I still didn't say it correctly. Bridger's here. Yay.
Woo!
Yay, Bridger. We just had a discussion about his last name and how there's different families of that name and Montana and the backgrounds and all of that. And I still messed it up. So I'm sorry, Bridger. We're glad you're here. And I'm excited because today, I'm curious if Rebecca has any inkling. We are talking about Bigfoot.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, the hat! Good gosh. If there were...
Did you have any idea?
No
Yay.
idea.
Okay.
And he's wearing a hat that says Bigfoot is real. So for goodness sakes, it's all on me for not connecting the dots.
The clues were there.
Well, Bridger was the genius behind hosting Dr. Lanny Reelbird, who was here for Western Art Week, and I went to that talk at 9 a.m. on a Saturday.
Good for you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, good for you.
I still think maybe 9 a.m. is not the best time on a Saturday, but I was committed and I went, and it was amazing learning about native sign language.
Oh, yeah.
And how it is portrayed in Russell's artwork.
How cool.
And other things. I mean, I learned a few words. I learned a few phrases. It was really good.
That sounds like good stuff.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And that is not at all what we're talking about today.
No, but let's get to know Bridger a little bit before we dive into Bigfoot.
Yes. So Bridger, tell us everything about you in 3 minutes or less.
Okay.
Starting with, are you a Great Falls guy? Are you...
Oh, I'm a big Great Falls guy,
Woo!
but I was not born here.
Okay.
If that's your question.
Start at the beginning all the way till now. 3 minutes, go.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be 3 minutes.
Well, I was an Air Force brat, which is kind of funny that I never ended up in Great Falls.
That is weird.
But definitely, my first name is Shane, like the old Western movie.
Okay.
And then my middle name is Bridger, like Jim Bridger. And so I think my father really wanted to come out to Montana.
Because he got all the West tied in.
But I don't think my mom let him.
She's like, no.
Yeah. So I lived mostly on the East Coast. We moved around all the time.
Okay.
And then once I graduated college, I moved out to South Dakota and was teaching there. And then in Arizona was teaching there, moved back to South Carolina.
Oh
my gosh.
Yeah.
Teaching theater, if you couldn't guess.
For what level? Like what?
So all
age?
levels. So
Okay.
I've taught elementary, middle, high school.
Okay.
I actually taught at Great Falls High School, Go Bison.
Ooh.
I was
Yes.
the theater teacher there for 3 years. It was fabulous. Some of the most talented people I've ever met in my entire life live in this
cool.
town.
Do you know Liz Laver? She is
if
our
I say-
events coordinator. She's from
You
Great
can
Falls.
say no.
in
If I say
theater.
no, she's going to say, oh, well, we have met actually.
No, you're fine. She's just really involved in theater and
great.
performance and the arts, and is from Great Falls. Went to Great
But
Falls
she's been
High
out of high school for a while.
for a while,
Gotcha.
but I didn't know if perhaps your paths had
No,
crossed.
unfortunately
No.
not. No.
Well, they should. I think she's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
All theater people are.
Yes, it's true. Okay, so you South Dakota, Arizona.
Yeah, then I went to grad school at the University of Montana. So I was there studying directing for the stage,
Ooh.
and then moved out to Great Falls to be a theater teacher.
Ooh.
And then I finished my contract with them, but I wasn't ready to leave Great Falls because it's just such a damn good town.
Yes, it is.
Woo! And so I currently serve as the Director of Education and Programming at the C.M. Russell Museum.
And how'd you end up there?
It's so funny.
How do you not?
So my friend Kendall Seibel, shout out to her, love of my life, partner in art,
Yeah.
Queen Diva. She's a bartender at Meadowlark Country Club. And she was there listening some folks talk about a job opening. And she was like, hey, I just overheard
I know
about
a
it.
guy.
Yeah. And so she sent me the application. I applied on Sunday. The job application closed on Monday.
Ooh.
Sneaking in.
And it all worked out.
Wow. And so how long have you been there for?
Just a little over a year.
Okay.
So 2 Russell auctions.
Oh.
Which are the big
Start
kahuna.
right before.
Yeah, you would have started right. That's a prime
Absolutely.
time to start right
mean,
before the big event.
That's the way to do it. Baptism by fire.
Uh-huh.
And it was.
Yes. So, education, you do programming. How is your theater life involved in your education at the C.M. Russell Museum?
That's such a good question. So I'm a playwright, so I do that a lot in my free time. So I write some plays that get some stage readings and performances around the country.
Awesome.
But I'm not currently involved in theater in Great Falls just because my current job takes up all of my time.
However, I would imagine a lot of those skills
Oh,
and creative
absolutely.
process goes with what you do.
Absolutely, giving tours, creating
Yeah.
exciting programming, just making the museum an exciting place that people want to come to.
And let me say, having a tour guide who is engaging and entertaining makes all the difference in the experience somewhere.
Absolutely.
We did a tour. I made my current spouse do a
That's
random
how she refers to him, by the way.
random tour of old homes in Montana. Was it last year? And we ended up at the Clark Mansion down in Butte. And our tour guide was just bursting with funny, engaging, and it was like I was the only one that was there for it. Everyone else was like, just tell us the facts and move on. And so he'd constantly banter back and forth, and he says, can you guess this? I'm like, I can't, just tell me. And so at the end of the tour, the other people on the tour are like, do you know him? Like, are you... I'm like, no, he is just willing to give a performance in his tour, and you people were not engaging with him, so he could kind of just come up with that. So,
and I know that he's grateful for you. I'm
Yes.
sure he's
Yeah.
like, thank God for that one woman.
Right, who was engaging with me. And it really does make a difference. And I'm like you too, like even the pilots that come on airplanes and are like joking or acting,
Sure.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I already feel better about this experience. So yeah,
so when
good
people,
job.
Thank you.
This is a good time to do an announcement that if you're doing a tour, engage with the tour guide.
That's right.
Please.
Play along. It makes
Gosh.
everyone's experience
Ask
more
questions, be
Yeah.
inquisitive, share jokes with them.
Yeah, because this may be your first time hearing it, but this is their 300th time saying
Right.
it.
Right.
And the difference in the tour all comes from the group that you're leading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of that
Yeah.
energy.
And you're
with
going to
them.
get more out of the experience
Absolutely.
if you embrace it.
totally.
You know, if you're not going to engage with the tour guide, just walk around yourself aimlessly.
Yes, yes. There's text panels. You can read
Yeah.
them.
That's right. Yeah.
But we're here to entertain.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, did you know much about Charlie Russell prior to this, or was that kind of
gosh.
baptism by fire
I
as
think
well?
I might lose my job if I say this,
Okay.
but I didn't.
That's
I really
okay.
didn't.
Well,
hey,
you got the job.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I was grateful
So
as
there was
high.
not a lot of
Yeah.
questions
Yeah.
about Charlie in the interview.
No, I did do some research. I did go to the museum like days before my interview. And so I think there's a lot of value with Charlie Russell and his legacy. We could talk about that all day.
For sure.
Especially what the museum does with his legacy, including Indigenous voices, including Nancy Russell's perspective.
Love
So
Nancy.
valuable. We love Nancy. But I didn't know anything about Charlie at all.
Yeah.
But I learned very quickly enough to get through. Yeah.
Were those first few tours where you're like, nobody asks questions? Nobody asks
No,
questions.
literally, people would say stuff, and I'd say, "Yes, he did." I don't know. He went through Oklahoma, and then afterwards, someone would be like, "No, he didn't. You can't just say things." So now my
That's
tour
Rebecca's style of just making stuff up and
I just
going
make him
with it.
confirm. Like,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. What is history, right?
he was in Oklahoma, and if you don't believe me, you might want to come up later.
Do
and
your
tell
own
me.
research.
Yeah. Were you there in 1878? Do
No, you
know?
weren't.
Neither was I. So here we are.
Oh, so
Yeah.
if you want a fun tour, ask
Yeah.
for you. If you want a factual tour, I'm just kidding. Sounds like you got it.
Still ask for
Yeah.
Bridger.
I think there can be a nice blend of facts and storytelling.
So okay. Yeah.
When will we have a Charlie Russell play
Ooh.
acted out on the campus grounds?
Okay, so there's a big push
That's a
for us
great
to do
question.
like Theodore Roosevelt style gigantic performance. It's
This
just
is why you were hired.
that's my dream. That's my dream. So we're looking at it long term, but
Okay.
it's something that I'd love to do. I think it'd be really easy to take, public domain cowboy songs, historical cowboy songs, and create a narrative about the wonder of the West. I think it would be
Yeah.
really exciting. But we're exploring right now this idea that I did at Great Falls High School with Paris Gibson
Yep.
I'm butchering it. Square the Art. I butchered
Paris
that.
Paris Gibson Square Museum of Art.
We love Paris Gibson Square Museum of the Art.
Yeah.
They do Arts on Fire every year,
Yes.
and I joined there with my students, and we would act out pieces of art, like paintings and stuff.
Ooh.
And so it'd be like live paintings. The actors would be frozen,
Oh.
and then some museum goers would walk
Yeah.
around and look at the art because the art never arrived, so they have to be the art. So we're
Ooh.
exploring how we incorporate that into the museum right now. Hopefully,
Interesting.
maybe end of summer, but probably next year for sure.
I mean, I think you could just start doing it, just wearing something that blends in with the wall and stand there and just start doing stuff when people walk by. You
Yeah.
could just start doing it.
I think I would scare them. I'd give people
Yeah.
a lot of heart attacks.
Well, pick the
I
right
think-
audience to scare. Yeah.
I think it would be great.
Rebecca also has dreams of some type of like cowboy poetry event.
Oh,
So maybe
yeah.
this is an incorporation of that too.
Well, I just think the campus at Sam Russell Museum is so gorgeous and just begs for something to happen in the green space
Absolutely.
on a beautiful summer day. And
Oh, well, that's so funny you mentioned that because we do have Saddles and Spurs.
Oh, look at
it's always a fun
National
event.
Cowboy Week this Saturday. That would be, I think it's the last week in July, but check
Somewhere in there.
Visit
Yeah.
Great Falls for the info.
Exactly.
But we have all of these events out on the green space. We've got face painting. We've got they call it plain air
Yes.
drawing, where you just
Yeah.
like sit outside and paint. We have a horse that you can paint. It's not a real horse.
Oh,
it's a fake
I was
horse.
like, oh, you're just painting a horse.
We have cowboy cooking. We've got food trucks. We've got live music. You can go through the museum if you want.
Yeah.
This year, we're going to try to make a big community mural that everyone can spray paint and contribute
cool.
to. So it's just like it's a big festival on the green. And so that happens in
that's-
July.
Okay. That's
that
exciting.
sounds great.
I'm glad you're plugging that now because
course.
this is the time when people are, making their summer plans if they haven't already and looking at reasons to come, which we give them a lot. And that's just one more. So we love that.
Now, we'll anxiously await the play that will happen.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got that under wraps. What are some of the other programming that you do? Is it stuff you've developed? Is it because Cowboys and Spurs, Saddles and
Saddles and
Spurs
Spurs.
for Cowboys, is one of those institutional things
Sure,
that continue to develop and grow. Other programming that you get to be involved in.
So when I came on, we didn't have an education director. We didn't have a programming director. So it was a blank slate. And we're
Ooh.
coming out of COVID still when I came on. So we were just starting to get our feet back running.
Yeah.
So it was exciting to just begin new things and
Yeah.
exciting things. So we have a book club starting this month,
Ooh,
April
I saw something
29th.
about that.
Yep,
Yeah.
Tuesday at 6 p.m. And we're talking about the American Bison book, which is really popular right now. It's a fabulous book. Next month, we're talking about Mystery Stalks the Prairie by Joan Bird. And
Ooh.
I believe his last name is Wolverton, Keith Wolverton, who was a sheriff in Great Falls. And during the 70s, including some Bigfoot sightings, there were some UFO sightings and just a huge
Yes.
uptick in weird things.
Yeah.
And they literally wrote the book on it. So we'll be reading that next month as
Ooh.
well.
So
Okay.
book club, is it virtual? Is it in person?
It's in person in the museum.
Ooh.
So now's your chance. You can read the book and come next month for that discussion.
Absolutely.
I-
It's
That
available
sounds
in the
fun.
store and the library.
Okay.
Look at
Love
that.
What
Look
was
at
the
that.
name of that one again? That book?
American Bison is in April, and next month is Mystery Stalks the Prairie.
Mystery Stalks the Prairie.
Great
okay.
book, great book.
So let's talk about weird stuff.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about it.
UFO sightings we've documented well on this podcast.
Great.
We've not discussed
Mm.
your friend and mine, the hairy fella, Bigfoot.
Mr. Bigfoot.
Yes. So many questions. How?
First,
Yeah.
Did you watch Harry and the Hendersons?
Oh my gosh. Every person asked me about that, and I have never seen it. Look, for me, Bigfoot's not a joke. Bigfoot's real. Bigfoot's real.
Don't
Okay.
mess with that.
Harry and the Hendersons makes him such a real person with such a great personality that connects and has love with a family. It is hands down one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I love Harry and the Hendersons.
Isn't that, oh my gosh, this is so bad. I'm spacing his name, but he's a fantastic actor.
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow. Yeah, he's in that, isn't he?
I'm telling you, it's an internal battle between family, father and son, of what Bigfoot is and what Bigfoot isn't,
Oh.
and dispelling myths. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really fantastic.
So you'll have to watch it, do a movie review
I
for
guess
us.
so.
and- yeah.
I've toured Montana a little bit and done this speech, my Bigfoot presentation with Humanities Montana, all around Montana. And so people always tell me to watch that movie, but I have never seen it.
That's funny that particular movie comes up all the time.
Well, how could-
Constantly.
Bigfoot is such a theme
Yeah.
there.
There's-
I'm not going to ruin it because it's been out for 20 plus years. Bigfoot reunites with his family,
Oh. Interesting.
both his human and his Bigfoot family.
Oh.
It's a beautiful
There's-
story.
Okay. Well, gotta watch Harry and the Hendersons.
It's all
Put it
about
on the
bringing
list.
families together.
Have you watched all the varying documentaries about Bigfoot?
You bet. I grew up watching those.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And some of them are believable. Some of them
Well,
Questionable.
done.
a little
That's great.
questionable. Absolutely.
So, as a theater person
Yes.
and a
Yeah.
director, can you tell when people are faking it?
Oh, good
Ooh,
question.
More than the
Well-
normal human.
Okay. I'd like to think so. I'm pretty good at reading a room.
Yeah.
But sometimes people believe the lie. You
Okay.
know, I mean, I've talked to people who say, I heard a noise outside my tent. It was a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And I go, it could have been. Absolutely. But if we're going to be a researcher of Bigfoot, we have to be suspicious of every piece of information we get. We can't just believe every single thing we hear.
I feel like that's the sign of a true believer and researcher right there.
I would hope so.
About all things.
I know,
just-
that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I was like,
Yeah.
that's how you test real things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had 2 encounters that might have been a Sasquatch
Oh,
encounter, but I
okay.
don't have physical evidence for you, and so I'm not
Yeah.
going to sit here and tell you that I've seen Sasquatch.
Okay. Were those in Montana?
Both of them were in
okay,
Montana, yes.
Tell us
So
about it.
the first one was in Missoula when I was a grad student during in a site where actually other people have seen Bigfoot and people
Okay.
have taken photos, which you can see in my presentation this Thursday at the Great Falls Public Library.
You go. Perfect.
And so that's the Waterworks Trail. I don't know if you're
I
familiar with
don't
it.
know that one. Huh?
It's the big Golden Hills right to the east of Missoula, right at the edge of town that you can climb. But at the far side of it, it's private land that's deeply forested.
Okay.
So as you look up the hill, it just turns into a ton of trees.
That makes
And
sense.
Bigfoot has this trait where he likes to stand by a tree when he thinks he's been sighted and not move, completely frozen.
Stealthy.
Stealthy indeed. The stealthy champion, famously
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yep.
And so
Hide and go seek champion,
yes.
right?
Me and my friend Kendall, shout out to her again. We were walking up the trail just on a normal, beautiful summer day, and we looked up, and one of the trees looked a little darker than the rest, and it was a humanoid shape. And it could have been a person. It could have been anything. We watched it for
That would
a while.
be creepy if it was a person.
It was creepy. It was disturbing. I took a photo, but
Whether it was a person or not, it was weird.
Yeah, uh-huh.
and it was someone's land, so someone could have been on that land. You know,
Yeah.
maybe they were looking for cows, maybe they were cutting down trees. I don't know.
They knew you were coming and that
Maybe.
you wanted to see Bigfoot.
Maybe.
Wanted to lurk.
Yeah.
And so we watched it for a while, and eventually it disappeared behind the trees. So it was a thing.
Something that moved.
Was a thing, but we
Yeah.
don't know what the thing was.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then I've done a lot of research into Bigfoot calls. There's a ton of evidence out there for Bigfoot calls. There's tons of databases. You can find so many.
Interesting.
And what makes them special is that the size of lungs determines the depth of a sound.
Oh.
And so we can study these sounds and say that no humans generated this sound. Or you
Really?
can hear it echo, you can hear it reverb, and people at colleges and universities and research centers have studied these, and they can't say what it is, but they can say what it's not.
Yeah.
And so when I was in Glacier National Park up by Two Medicine Lake, the sun was going down. Me and, again, my friend Kendall, she's my partner in life.
Yeah.
She's going to be on this podcast more than me. We were walking and the sun was coming down, and we had this weird interaction with these people who were following us already. So our hackles were
Creepy.
raised.
Okay.
Whole separate story.
Okay. I was like, why are they following you? Different story.
Yeah, we
Okay.
did some loops and they just kept following us on the loops. It was suspicious. But then as the sun
Yep.
was going
Maybe
down,
they wanted to be your friend.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for friends on a hike. I'm looking for Bigfoot and maybe a bear.
Right. Yeah.
But we heard some of those whooping deep sounds
Oh.
that could have been many things,
Sure.
but were
But
very
that's kind of a signature.
peculiar. Yeah, yeah. The deep woof.
I
Yeah.
have heard that there's a website you can go to where all Bigfoot sightings are recorded.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So you can then see kind of patterns
Absolutely.
of where he's
Absolutely.
saying
Yeah.
they,
It's
he,
they.
multiple.
Community. A
Yeah.
community, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It would be bigfootmap.com. Big
Okay.
fan. Yeah, the creator of it has a background in geography sciences, or I don't know the exact words. And so he took his background in creating digital maps and then compiled all of these other reports of Bigfoot, put them all in one place. It's a huge, huge, huge source for information. It's one of my favorites.
I'll link it in the show notes here on the
Fabulous.
podcast.
There you go.
Yeah. Bigfootmap.com.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Have there been any sightings in the Great Falls area?
There have been. So we talked a little bit about that big influx with the UFOs.
Yeah.
And that's when we started getting Bigfoot sightings in Great Falls.
Huh.
We have not had any substantial sightings or evidence since the 70s. There were some
Okay.
people who saw some things down in the high woods in the 80s. They heard some calls, but again, could have been anything. But here in Great Falls, we have stories of people seeing them outside their homes.
Oh.
What's the...
Was it just you dressed up?
Not in the 70s,
Yeah,
no.
that's true. That's true. Not in the 70s. Yeah.
Benton Lake actually has a few sightings as
Oh.
well, which may sound peculiar, but there used to be grizzly bear sightings there
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the time,
Right.
even more recently. And so it would make sense that a Bigfoot could be there too. Yeah.
All right, Bridger, I'm going to get to the basics of folklore versus reality.
Sure.
How tall is Bigfoot?
Well, various sizes. The younger ones are about the size of a person, 5 to 6 feet, maybe up to
Okay.
7.
Okay.
There's some sources that say that Bigfoot can get up to 14 feet.
Oh,
I don't.
that's-
I don't
that
always.
seems a bit much.
That
I
seems
agree.
excessive.
There's
Yeah.
a really cool test they did on lake monsters where they put logs out in the water and they had people on the beach judge the
Oh.
size of
Yeah.
it. And they all were like, well, it's a 40-foot log. And it was like a 15-foot
Yeah.
log.
Yeah.
Right.
And I personally am really bad at numbers. Like
Measurement.
I couldn't tell you how big this room is right now.
Yeah.
I could not tell you.
Yeah.
And so I'm dubious of that. We got to have
Yeah.
that dubiousness. When we, an open mind, but a
Yes.
critical mind.
Uh-huh.
So some people say it's up to 14. I don't think so. I think around like 11 feet's probably about the maximum, but
Yeah,
still,
that
I mean,
makes
a
sense.
gigantic
Giant.
creature.
Mhm.
That's
Absolutely.
pretty big. Pretty
Yeah.
big.
Absolutely.
And they walk on feet.
Well, the
Big hairy man looking, or are we looking more at
non-gender
tree-
specific.
Digits, how many digits, all of these
tree
things. Yeah.
style ape or monkey or
Well,
what are we looking at
it
for
would be
like a real, not my Harry and the Hendersons view, who he was adorable.
sure.
But like a real, what
Sure.
do they really look like?
So they're tall, they're thick. There's no defining neck that we can see in them.
Okay.
They're full of muscle, a lot like gorillas. They're bipedal. However, this is a terrifying fact. The teenagers, the young ones,
Yeah.
have been sighted doing this spider crawl, which is one of the scariest things
That
you'll
would
ever
be
see.
terrifying.
And there's
Yeah.
videos
It
of
could
it.
be middle
It's-
of the day,
yes.
someone doing a spider crawl. That's weird.
Yes. So the videos I've seen are usually of them crossing the road, or I've
Oh.
even seen one coming onto people's farm, and they do the spider crawl, and it's
Ugh.
I'd rather see an adult one, and I'd rather it just kill me right
That's
then and there than
horrifying.
see the baby one
Run after you.
terrifying. Yes.
Horrifying.
But they don't do that as adults. That's something that we notice about them only
Just
as
like less
as children.
flexibility.
I guess maybe maybe it's because they're too big, so they don't think they can keep low.
Like
I'm not really sure.
crouches low? Yeah.
I don't know the culture of Bigfoot yet.
You'll have to ask one day.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. So they come in all different colors: brown, black, blonde. We've even seen
Oh.
albino ones,
was just gonna
which is
ask.
kind of
Okay.
similar to Yeti, right? They're,
Okay.
they're
Yeah, sure.
related.
Yeah, okay.
We've seen ones with reddish fur with white patches, and so they're just as variously colored as any other animal in the wild. Helps them blend in.
So the Bumble from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is probably a Bigfoot.
In the
Well, because he would, if the North Pole is North America, then he would be a
Yes.
Bigfoot. He would not be a Yeti.
Okay, what's the
Bingo.
distinction?
Well, Yetis would be from Asia, the
Okay.
Himalayas, and then Bigfoot
So
is
it's
from.
kind of like bison versus buffalo.
I think so. Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I would say that's. Well, Well, a bison is not a buffalo,
Right.
Yeah.
but a Bigfoot is a Yeti, and a Yeti is a Bigfoot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it would be kind of like how we have moose here and they have moose in Europe.
Oh, still
But they're
moose,
still
but
moose,
different moose.
but they look different. The
Yeah.
sizes are
There's
different.
like stags in Europe and
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We
Okay.
have grizzly bears down here, but there's Kodiak bears
Yeah.
up north. But
Okay.
they're both brown bears.
Yeah. Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
What's interesting is that the stories of Yeti go back really, really, really far.
Okay.
Really, I mean, hundreds of years. And the stories of Bigfoot go back, obviously, people in America have been documenting it since they came to America. And there are some indigenous stories about Bigfoot and Sasquatch like creatures. But we got to be careful if we put the word Bigfoot on another culture's belief system.
Okay.
But there's some intersections there that are compelling for sure.
So North America is Bigfoot.
Absolutely.
Rest of the world, Yeti?
That's a good question. I know in Russia.
Are all Sasquatch is a joint term for either?
Actually, Sasquatch is only used in North America. It was
Okay.
developed by a white man who was living in a Canadian native community and as a teacher there, and he heard the word Sasquatch from them. And he published a large amount of stories of their folklore, and that's where the word Sasquatch comes from.
Okay.
And the word Bigfoot comes from loggers in California who noticed a bunch of footprints in the dirt as they were logging, and then their equipment would get moved around. And I mean, this is
Tricky.
big logging equipment.
Yeah.
This isn't little stuff.
Are they crawling in and driving it or picking it up and moving
They're
it?
dragging it. Yeah, they're messing with it. There's a lot of stories of Bigfoot's not violent. Bigfoot is friend. We love Bigfoot. Bigfoot
Yes,
does not
just
want to
like
hurt us.
Harry and the Hendersons
Oh my
told us.
gosh.
So even when horrifying teenage Bigfoot is spider crawling at
Still
you,
good Bigfoot.
friendly.
Still good Bigfoot. There is
Okay.
only
Just
one.
wants to snuggle.
Yeah.
There is only one reported case of a Bigfoot killing a person ever, and you're not going to believe who did it. I'll save that one for a little
Okay,
bit.
okay.
We'll put
Okay.
a pin in that
Ooh,
one.
okay.
Someone historically important. But Bigfoot's nice. But
Lewis and Clark.
no, if only, if only. But there are actually quite a lot of explorers who talk about it. In 1811, his name escapes me, but the first white man to see the Columbia River, he reported up in Jasper National Park seeing gigantic footprints go on for about 300 yards. And he could see them. And his guides told him, don't follow those. We don't follow those gigantic, large footprints. And what's compelling to me about that is what's someone in 1811 doing writing about gigantic footprints?
Right.
And these are not people who just wanted to walk outside and see something cool. These are
Right.
explorers
Yeah.
who know how to live in the wild. And when they go, this is strange. I don't know what I'm looking at. That's a ding 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 for me.
Right.
Yeah.
It was notable enough to include
Absolutely.
in something. Now
Yeah.
I want to go through the Lewis and Clark journals and be like, is there any indication of weirdness here?
There definitely is, but
Yeah.
nothing specifically Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The grizzly that Clark shot here was, or that chased Clark here was actually Bigfoot.
Well, there has been some
Crawling.
drama over one of their deaths.
This is true. Yeah.
So
Anyway.
recent drama. So I thought maybe that would have been the one. When we're talking about Bigfoot,
Mm-hmm.
how long do you think they live?
That's a good question. I do believe that there's a community of Bigfoot. I don't think it's just one.
Okay.
There is a conversation. There's two schools of thought about Bigfoot, and we have to put on our tinfoil hats here for a
Okay.
second.
Okay.
There's the great ape theory, which is that he's a gigantic ape, like a gorilla. There's an old hominid, like a primate hominid, old. I don't even think they're directly related to us at all, but they're maybe a few steps down in the evolutionary ladder. Gigantopithecus, which is a 10 to 12 foot tall great ape who lived in China.
Oh.
I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
So there's a theory that it crossed Beringia and would have come down through North America, and that's the link between Yeti and Sasquatch.
Okay.
I used to prescribe to that. That's what I grew up watching on the History Channel, Discovery
Yeah.
Channel. That's kind of what everyone pushes. And then I went to a Bigfoot conference in Glacier a few years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And it was my first Bigfoot conference, and they presented evidence, lots of research, all of these people from all over the country. And it was a little woo, a little crazy. But by the end of it, it opened my mind to things. There were certain things that they presented that just made me. It wasn't so simple. It wasn't so simple. I mean, stories of big feet appearing and then disappearing is very common. And so some people believe that he maybe is on a different frequency wave than us. And so sometimes that frequency tunes into our world. And
Which
then
would make sense
Bigfoot's
with the
here.
alien sightings.
Absolutely.
kind of
Yeah,
at
I
the
was
same
going to
time.
ask why that
Yeah.
connection. Yeah.
And that's some of the things they talked about at this conference up in Glacier was the connection to
Let's,
aliens.
let's dig it. Did Kendall go with you to the Bigfoot conference?
She did. Let's talk about her.
Okay. That's my first question. Second, when you said, I'm going to go to a Bigfoot conference,
Yeah.
what percentage of you was more scared than excited? And how did that change once you got there? Because I can't imagine everyone there comes at the conference from a education or scientific
Sure.
standpoint. I'm assuming there's a sect of the conference attendee that's a bit weirdsmobile, and you're like, ooh, they give us a bad name, and I don't want to associate with
Right.
them.
Well, I think, gosh, it's such a wide group of people. I mean, I hear a lot about, I just read this book that talked about that all the people who like Bigfoot are just conservative white men. And I was like, the Bigfoot's, Bigfoot's fan base is diverse. That may just be this single, I mean, he was talking about Kentucky, so maybe that's the demographic there.
Sure.
And also he was on like a Bigfoot hunting trip. And I was like, well, I think that there's some other things at play here. I think everyone's interested in Bigfoot. I think everyone's open to Bigfoot. And so whether you're someone who's like, let's put on the tinfoil hat, he's an ambassador of the aliens, or you think that he's just another ape in the woods,
Sure.
I think that everyone has a seat at the table. And since we haven't found him yet, officially, since we don't have a body, and maybe there's a reason we don't have a body because he's not a physical being, who knows? Maybe they bury their dead like some primates have been seen doing. Who knows? We don't know how complex their culture is. But I think everyone has a seat at the table, and it was a really open and welcome community. So I was just excited. I was walking in thinking it was going to be okay. I loved Bigfoot since I was a kid, and so I've read every book there is to read on Bigfoot. And so I was a little like, okay, what am I going to learn that's new? And I walked out of there with my mind blown.
Oh.
There was one guy who did 90 minutes of just Bigfoot recordings, like sounds of them. And then he had them analyzed by some universities. So then we were looking at their reports of them. And that was just one of the presentations. It was fabulous. Yeah.
How did you get into presenting about Bigfoot?
Well, Bigfoot's my love. Bigfoot's my life. I adore it. I wanted to be a cryptozoologist as a kid, someone who studies Bigfoot, Yeti, Loch Ness Monster, anything on the fringes. And we have to remember that there's lots of creatures or animals that were cryptids and then were no longer cryptids once we discovered them. So there's the coelacanth, who was a prehistoric fish who was caught off of South Africa in the 20th century, and they were like, we thought this was a dinosaur. We thought this was gone. People didn't believe the okapi, the giraffe zebra-looking creature.
Yeah.
People thought that it was two animals sewn together until the 20th century. The giant squid was not. We weren't even sure if it was real until the 2000s, and then and then we found some like subspecies of them as well. So the world, I think we have this belief that we've figured it all out, we've paved everything, and there's no more secrets.
Right.
And that's what's cool about Sasquatch for me, is that I do believe in Sasquatch. But even if you don't believe in Sasquatch, he's a symbol of the wild still, of this untamed part of our world. Because we feel like we've taken over the world. The world is ours as humans. But Bigfoot reminds us that there's still something else here.
Well, and I think it's a real important philosophical discussion of we haven't learned everything there is to learn, and there's still room for education and improvement on all things. No matter what it is, there's still unanswered questions, unanswered elements of the world for us as humans, even though we feel we're so technologically advanced.
The
There's
world's gotten small in that regard, but there's still so much vastness. And I think with the fish that look like dinosaurs,
the
they all
coelacanth.
kind of do, but the ones that the like terrifying ones, the deep water, you're like, oh yeah, you're still there's a dinosaur. Yeah, I think that opens it up. What are your views on Nessie, Loch Ness Monster?
I'm so glad you asked.
Thank you. I've been to Scotland. I've been to Loch Ness, by the way.
Just beautiful?
It is beautiful. It was a dreary day, as happens in
that's
Scotland.
Scotland, right?
But yeah, I mean, we could see. So I will preface this. My husband and I went. My husband, who, by the way, I told him he's a big Bigfoot guy.
Great.
Watched all the documentaries. Huge fan. Loves it all. He was like, he wants to go on a hunt with you. So he was like, I'm supposed to tell you from my husband. And he's like, if he goes on a Bigfoot hunt, I want to go.
Okay.
So, there's that. So this is who I'm in Scotland with. And you can see on Loch Ness, like the waves, how that water goes, especially when it's dreary. You can see where people would look at that and think, oh, there's Nessie, because it's
something there,
just
yeah.
with how the waves on that particular body of water flow is interesting. Anyway.
And I know that there's a lot of photos, and there's some that are interesting, some that people have said are fake. I'm always dubious about that, because if there's something popular, people are going to take credit for it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I'm dubious about it, but there's some compelling images. I do believe that Nessie once existed. I mean, those stories go back hundreds and hundreds of years. And I think it's easy to say, well, people back then were stupid. But I don't, I think that they probably understood their lake a little bit better than maybe even we do.
Yep.
And so I think that Nessie was around. There's a lot of caves under Loch Ness that have not been fully surveyed, but we know that they're there. And I know that some of the caves connect to the river that leads into Loch Ness. And so I believe that Loch Ness was used as a breeding ground, because they would come in kind of like salmon or eels.
Yeah.
How there's that one spot they all flock to,
Yeah.
and then that's where they reproduce, the babies hatch, and then the babies go back out to the ocean.
Yeah.
So that's what I believe, but I think that because of the boat activity, the amount of people on there,
Yeah,
they're
they don't wanna-
probably not there anymore.
Yeah. Interesting.
So back to Bigfoot. Every year, the Sun River Lodge,
Sun Canyons.
thank you, Sun Canyon Lodge does a Bigfoot hunt. Are you pro or con on that?
Have you done it?
I have not done it.
Okay.
I think as a fun activity to get people outdoors is wonderful.
Sure.
I think getting people excited about Bigfoot is wonderful, and getting community together is wonderful. I do not think we should ever shoot a Bigfoot.
Right.
I don't think we should ever kill one. There's a
I
lot
should
of
clarify when I said hunt, my look hunt, not
Absolutely,
shoot
absolutely,
hunt.
yeah.
That my husband wants to just clarify.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah,
There's a
no
lot of
shooting
stories
Bigfoot.
of people who get evidence of Bigfoot. The most famous Patterson Gimlin film, that's like the one of Bigfoot doing the turnaround, where
Yeah,
that
yeah.
iconic image comes
Yeah.
from. They said that they wish they'd killed it. A lot of people say they wish they kill it because no one believes them. They're like, oh, I have this footage.
Right.
Everyone will
So
believe
you can
me.
actually
And then
have
they don't.
tangible evidence.
Absolutely. But there's a lot of stories of hunters who go out and they're hunting something else, and then they see a Bigfoot, and a lot of them go to put the Bigfoot in the crosshairs.
Yeah.
And there's something incredibly human about their faces, something compelling. A lot of stories of people say, I was gonna kill it, and then something told me no.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that kind of goes back into the let's put the tinfoil hat
Yeah.
on. You know, it could be a monkey, it could be an ape, but it could be something else. And I don't know
Yeah.
what that something else is. I'm not going to venture to say, but
Well,
it's
and then
interesting.
at that point, it feels like murder.
Absolutely, absolutely.
right. If you're looking at like a human looking face at you.
Sure. Yeah, with intelligence.
But
yeah.
You can kind of see where, because people want the hard evidence, right?
Right.
To say like, oh, I wish I would have shot it. So then people
course.
believe me, we have actual evidence then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
their eyes, they don't reflect light like a lot of other apes do, or a lot of other animals do, where like, you know, they turn red in the light.
Yeah.
Or they glow.
Yeah.
Big feet eyes don't glow like ours. And so
Oh.
there's something about them that are just all too human.
So that comes from people who have interacted and shown a flashlight at them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
We have a lot
yeah.
of night photography of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the skunk ape down in Florida, which is very similar to Bigfoot. And there were some photos that came out.
Of course, Florida. That sounds
Right,
so weird.
that's where it would be. And the pictures of it had reflective eyes. And that's what led people to say, we don't think this was a Bigfoot. And they found out that an orangutan had escaped from the zoo into the Everglades.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That does make more sense. I didn't know that or remember that from watching documentaries or anything about the eyes. Yeah.
So, Bridger, tell me how the world has ended up at your feet, where you are working with Humanities Montana to talk about Bigfoot, because you said you're speaking on Thursday.
Sure.
Why and how and where?
Well, Humanities Montana is just a great organization. They do wonderful work connecting humanities of all types all around the state. I mean, you've got indigenous storytelling, you've got Bigfoot, you've got, I mean, there's some folks who do backpacking through Bob Marshall and then share their stories. Dr. Lanny Reelbird, he does a presentation. Dr. Joan Bird, who covered the UFOs in the 70s, she does a presentation. There's a Nancy Russell reenactor.
Yeah.
So it's just, it covers so many different diverse topics. And so I got involved as the director of education at the museum. So I was bringing some of these folks in, and I saw that they had an opening to say, like, submit your presentation. We'll decide if we want it. And I submitted two, one about Charlie Russell, about the value of Charlie Russell's art in Montana. And then Bigfoot. And they said, and this is no shade, but they were like, we
Pish
think
posh on Charlie.
the Charlie one's a little specific to Great Falls, but Bigfoot. So they took me on as a speaker, which was incredibly wonderful. Unfortunately, that program has lost all of its funding. And so this Thursday at the library, we decided to go ahead with it anyway.
Okay.
Even though it's technically not supposed to, we're supposed to be canceling all of them because there's no more money for it. We're going ahead with it anyway because the people at the library are just wonderful. Sarah Cawley put this all together.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. And so this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the library will be the final Bigfoot in the Big Sky presentation until we hear more from Humanities Montana.
Sunset.
I know.
Unless anyone wants to
Write
hire
a
me
check.
to, let me tell you, I'm available.
Right.
You'll take money.
You'll take money. You can set up other presentations.
Yes.
Come talk to you at the museum.
I have a theater background, so I don't expect much money. Okay,
Right.
I'm used to starving artists, starving Bigfoot enthusiasts.
Yeah, love that. Have you ever tried to do your own film about your
That's a good
Bigfoot
question.
adventures?
I have not, only because I feel I have a lot of respect for Bigfoot, and I believe that when I go into the nature, into the world. It's communion, it's a cathedral of the wild.
Yeah.
And so if Bigfoot chooses to show himself to me, that's Bigfoot's decision. But I don't personally believe it's respectful to go looking for Bigfoot. And I think that's why a lot of people who don't come up with evidence. Bigfoot expects respect. And when you don't give it, when you have your camera crew with you, you're not always going to get something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that when Bigfoot reveals himself or themselves, I think that it chooses to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I would hope that one day I'm filming and the Bigfoot walks right in front of the camera. Yeah.
Just keep your heart open.
Yeah.
And your eyes peeled.
Yes, I talk to Bigfoot when I go into nature.
Yeah.
And I ask him to show himself to me if he wants, but
Yeah.
not yet.
Not yet.
Well, maybe not yet. Maybe
True.
not
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
You may have had 2 sightings.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people have had more sightings than they realize. And our brains and our eyes are used to seeing things that we're used to seeing.
Expect to see.
So it says, oh, that's shaped like a tree, so that's a tree. But what happens when your brain sees something it doesn't recognize? And I think, especially with our technological world, we're so inundated with things that we expect to see that when we see something compelling, I think sometimes we ignore it, we refuse to see it, or we make it something else that makes sense to us.
You try to
Really good
rationalize
point.
it
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, that doesn't seem to connect.
Your brain's
Yeah.
always trying to make sense of
Yep.
the world.
Because if you see a Bigfoot or you see a Sasquatch or you see Loch Ness, you see a ghost, you see any of these fringe things, you have a sighting, you're probably not going to have a second sighting, right? That was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Your belief system, your education, everything you know about the world is suddenly upended. And what do?
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? You're like, Bigfoot's real. I saw him. No one believes me.
Right.
And I have to go back to my job
Right.
and pretend like everything's okay.
Yeah.
And pretend like it's all just normal, but I saw something that I can't explain.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's why a lot of people choose to bury it, they choose to ignore it, or they just don't talk about it.
So, Bridger, let's talk about ghosts.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. So
Obviously a believer.
a big believer. My family has. They say they have the gift. Yeah,
Okay.
there's some spirits in our family that have followed us generationally, and they stick around and hang out. So some of them are a little more nefarious than others. But we've got some spirits that follow. So actually, big believer in ghosts, huge believer. At the C.M. Russell Museum, we've had some spooky things happen in the studio and in the original house because both are on the property.
Yeah.
And there's been some stuff. There's been some like.
Would you
Cold.
like to elaborate?
Sure. There's been some chills. There have been people have had their clothes pulled when they're alone in there.
Oh.
I used to sit in there when I started the job. I would sit in there on historical furniture that I've now learned you can't sit on. Whoops. There was no sign. If there's no sign, I'm going to
It's free
sit.
game.
I'm going to make myself at home.
Yeah.
Right. It was right in front of a TV. I said, this is here for me. But I was in there and I heard a person walking around upstairs.
Oh.
And then I went upstairs and there was no one up there.
Oh.
So it's just kind of that spooky stuff, a lot of stuff out of the corner of your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder, so I did a documentary for Visit Great Falls, and Nancy Russell was one of the 5 women featured in this Feisty Women documentary. I interviewed Sarah from the museum inside the house, she was sitting on a piece of furniture. So that's
Wow.
in the documentary.
Historical.
When you said that, I'm like, oh,
Ooh.
well, she sat on it for the interview. Now I'm like, oh, I should go back and like
Edit that
change
out.
frequencies or no,
Sure.
listen to that. Like, were there things happening in the house
Sure.
when we were there?
Yeah. I've got a lot of voice recordings where you just hear people suddenly chiming in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it on topic? That's always my question. Like, are they listening to what is being said, or are they having their own separate conversation that
Oh,
you
yeah.
interject in? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think about those frequencies that I brought up earlier. The idea that we're on a frequency, and we know that the planet that we live on is on
Yeah.
a frequency. Life itself has a frequency. And so what happens when we move up or down that frequency? And I think that these spirits, and I don't always believe that they're conscious. I don't believe that if someone has unfinished business, their soul stays here. I think that a part of them stays here. I think that they put like fingerprints on their lives. You know, when you have something traumatic or something exciting happen to you, it creates this energy like stamp on reality. And that's why you hear stories of my grandmother has a home in Amish country, Pennsylvania. And at night, a woman has been seen walking down the hallway around the same time every single night. And I don't believe that that's an active woman looking for something.
Yeah.
I think maybe that was her pattern every day. And so part of her life put a stamp on the energy of that space. I think that there are some nefarious creatures you got to be careful of.
Yep.
And I don't know what that is. I think there's a lot of things that feed off of negative energy. Hey, there's people who feed off of negative energy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not here. Not in this room.
Get
Not
out
in
of
this,
here.
Not in
Yeah.
this town. Okay. But yeah.
Be gone. Yeah.
So I do think it can all be connected. You know the Mothman prophecies?
I've heard of Mothman, but I don't know
Right, so-
anything about it.
Mothman was a person or an entity that they saw,
Okay.
I believe, in New Jersey in 80s, 90s. I'm not sure the exact
Oh.
date. I wasn't alive. I was I was a little star in the
Little
sky.
tyke, yeah.
So a journalist did a lot of research into it, and he developed this theory, and it's his unified theory of the paranormal. And he talks about the frequencies, and he says that's everything paranormal, that it fluctuates on these energy levels, and that's why sometimes Bigfoot's there. He goes behind a tree and he's gone. That's why you can see a ghost and then suddenly it's not there anymore. These things are coming in and out of frequencies, even aliens. It's all kind of unified under his theory. And I think it's really compelling.
Yeah. It's an easier way to explain like that
Yeah.
idea for some reason than multiple universes and
Right.
people
Right.
sliding into
Sure.
ours and then back out
Right.
It does make more
on
sense.
spaceships in technology that hasn't been invented yet. Those
Right.
kind of
Right.
ideas.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they're thousands of years ahead of us. And so,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they could be with frequencies, just
Right.
not in a different same space.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah.
Dimensional. Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought
Yeah.
about the frequency component of
Sure.
it. Yeah. Kind of along those lines, in some of the Bigfoot documentaries or films, there's people who they found and speak to or try to convince to speak. It feels dramatized in some of these, but people will say that they had an encounter with Bigfoot and they felt like
Yes.
sick or faint
Yes.
or nauseous, or they
Yes.
just didn't feel good.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's like, as you're talking about this frequency thing, I'm like,
Yeah.
is there some like frequency interference that's happening that makes them feel that way? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's 100% what
Okay.
it is. We know that frequencies can be used to shift our mental and physical state. We know that already. And so I do believe it's connected to that. And I think it's evidence for the fact that Bigfoot is not just a great ape. And I'm not going to venture to say what Bigfoot is,
Yeah.
but I think that it is not just a monkey living in our forests.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a sign of it because it's the same symptoms that people have sometimes from UFO encounters. Yeah, something uncanny. And then some people, kind of like seeing the face in the crosshairs, they
Yeah.
just experience something unexplainable, something transformative happens to them, probably seeing something that they didn't realize was real. Because a lot of people think that believers and people who find Bigfoot are looking for Bigfoot. They're the kooky hat tinfoil people.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who see Bigfoot are forest rangers. They're hunters. They're hikers. They're people who look out their kitchen window and see something uncanny.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important detail to all of these sightings, that it's not just kooky people
Yeah.
looking for something.
I was out there looking and
Yeah.
Right, and
I
I found
finally
one.
found it.
Which does happen. I mean, one of the most famous pieces of evidence, Patterson-Gimlin film, they spent almost 10 years looking for Bigfoot and then happened to walk up on a river where there was a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But they spent years looking and tracking
Mhm.
Bigfoot, and they went to sites that people had reported. This was 1967 in California.
Mhm.
So it was a different time.
So when you go out,
Yes, 67 was a different time.
Which is an important detail that the late 60s and start of the 70s was a big period of distrust in the media.
Yep.
I mean, we had Kennedy, we had the Vietnam War, Nixon.
Yeah.
I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
there's a lot
I mean, he
happening
was
there.
a Capricorn, so we love that, but we don't love what he did.
right?
And so people weren't eager to trust what they saw in the news. And so Bigfoot was a problem of timing. The Patterson-Gimlin film came out in 1967, and people didn't want to trust it because they didn't want to trust what they were seeing.
Yep.
They said, if I don't see it myself, I don't know if I believe it.
Yeah.
So it was, if Bigfoot had a PR manager.
Worlds were being rattled here. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And that's kind of what everyone said at that time when they had evidence. They would say, oh, I got this film, and the world is going to change.
Yeah.
Right.
And people didn't always say so.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's only gone further down that road of what we don't believe and what we're willing to tear other things or people down about. You know, you look at Elvis Presley,
Mm-hmm.
and then that shift to what we do to celebrities now after we put them on a pedestal,
Right.
then we tear them down. Those type of ideas stemming from that same time frame.
Speaking of Elvis and
Capricorn.
tinfoil hats / conspiracies.
You saw him?
No, I didn't. But have you guys seen the thing about, there's a guy, he's a Pastor Bob, who this is one where I'm like, maybe
he's still around?
Yeah. This guy, he would be about the age Elvis would be now. And people only started really like paying attention to was a few, I don't know how many years ago, but it would kind of be in line with if Elvis went into witness protection and came out of it. Oh my gosh, his voice sounds like just an older Elvis. It's facial structure. Compelling. Look it up. Pastor Bob, Elvis Presley.
Okay.
Go down that road.
My new
Yeah, go down
connection to the world.
go down that path. That's one where I'm like, well,
This is
maybe.
a real rabbit hole conversation.
Yeah. Were you about to ask something?
I was just going to say maybe Tupac is still around then too.
And Marilyn.
Never know.
Yeah.
Maryland.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maryland. Good
Yeah.
old Maryland.
Diana.
Oh, all the things. Those were far more public deaths, though, right? Or at
The
least
journalist
Diana.
and her.
Yeah.
Oh, so
No.
that's where we're drawing the line. My bad.
I mean, Elvis supposedly died on the toilet. No one really ever saw that, right? So
Then how do we know he died on the toilet?
Right. How
Someone
do we
saw
know
it.
he's not still alive?
Mm.
Anyway, I was going to ask, so for people who are coming to visit the Great Falls area,
Yes.
might be Bigfoot enthusiasts, lovers, believers, or skeptics, they can't necessarily catch your talk anymore. They can come talk to you at the museum about it.
Sure,
Hopefully
absolutely.
we'll
See
find
the rest of
other
the museum.
outlets for you to be able to talk. But if people are out exploring, there's a lot of hiking, getting
Yeah.
outside in this area. What are signs? What are little clues they can be looking for to say,
Bigfoot.
oh, maybe Bigfoot's hanging out here?
Been in this area.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I always notice quiet in the woods.
Mm.
You know, when large bears, when large animals move through the woods, birds tend to get a little quieter.
Ooh,
And
yeah,
so
that kind of
that's a good
that
sign.
eerie feeling you kind of
Yeah.
get sometimes. Yeah, okay.
Footprints, of course, and you got to be really careful because sometimes bears will step into their own footprints, and it can look a lot like an actual
okay.
gigantic human footprint.
Yeah.
But footprints are there. There's the whooping call, which can I do it in here?
Please.
Yes.
It's like obviously my lungs aren't big enough.
Do I need to turn your mic down so it
I'll-
doesn't peak?
but I will
okay.
project. It's like a ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
That's what I heard in Glacier. It's that deep, deep resounding where you're like, that's not a dog, that's not a bear.
Yeah.
What am I
What
listening
is
to?
that?
Yeah.
I really hope everyone else in this building just heard you doing that
Just
call.
heard the
They're like,
Bigfoot call.
what's going on in here?
What is going on?
And you can look up Bigfoot calls and then do Bigfoot calls. I
Yeah.
definitely do them every time I go into the woods,
Nice.
just for fun, just to see.
Yeah.
There's always that.
Because are you looking for, is it like a call and response that you're
Absolutely,
looking for?
yeah.
Okay.
There's also wood knocking has been reported. I'm dubious of wood knocking.
Okay.
Wood knocking began to be reported when there were TV documentaries
Ah.
of Bigfoot, and one of the pieces of evidence they found the most of was wood knocking. It's really easy to put a production assistant on a hill
Yeah.
on the other side of a valley and have them hit a tree.
Sure.
So I'm dubious of wood knocking, but they say that Big Feet do call and response wood knocking. Yeah, those are the big ones, and then look for Bigfoot. He doesn't like to move. He likes to stand still. He likes to stand close to trees. They're usually, especially in our area, Pacific Northwest, they're dark, black, brown, really,
Okay.
really dark. I actually spoke to a lady at the post office the other day, and she was telling me, shout out to you, she told me that when she was a kid, she was on her horse just going through some brush by a creek, and her sister saw this dark shape ahead of them. They thought it was a bear. And so they stopped and just kind of froze. And then it stood up and it was at eye level with her while she was on the back of a horse.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so another important thing is that Bigfoot's not here to hurt you. Bigfoot's not here to hurt you. Now, Bigfoot will defend its territory. We have a lot of stories of people who leave their campgrounds and Bigfoot comes and destroys the campground. But Bigfoot doesn't hurt people. There is one story of a dead person.
Yeah.
From Theodore Roosevelt.
Ooh. Okay. This is the thing we put the pen in.
Yes.
This is the story.
And there's also Battle of Ape Canyon at Oregon, which was, no one was killed, but people were potentially injured at that one. But again, they were defending their territory.
Yeah.
But Theodore Roosevelt, he did The Wilderness Hunter, was his book long before he was president, about his time just exploring the West. And his friend...
I'm pretty sure... Is that book like this thick?
It's big. Yeah.
So my... the
For those of you who...
it's very thick.
Are just listening to the podcast.
It's a lengthy
5
book.
inches.
It's a lengthy
6.
book.
Yeah.
The reason I asked, my husband just went to a banquet this weekend and won a silent auction item. And part of the package of this was that book.
Wow.
Which is funny because I wouldn't have known what you were talking about 2 days ago. But now I know because we have this big old thick book on our bookshelf now.
Well, in that book, there is a story of Bigfoot.
Oh,
there's a
okay.
Bigfoot story.
Okay, I have to tell him
Absolutely.
about that.
I don't know which chapter, but I believe it's close to the end.
Okay.
And it's a public domain document, so anyone can go ahead and just Google this and find it online. Obviously, it's old, so it's public domain. But Theodore Roosevelt had a friend who spent time in the Bitterroot Mountains here in Montana. And he was doing beaver trapping with one of his other friends. So this didn't happen to Theodore Roosevelt. It happened to his close friend, whose friend died in the Bitterroot Mountains. There were stories that other trappers had gone in there and seen spooky things, but for some reason the beaver hunt was very low that year. And so these two men were like, we're going to go into these mountains because we know there's lots of beavers up these rivers. So they go up, they make camp, they go out and set the beaver traps. They come back and their tents and their stuff has been kind of rummaged through, and they can see what look like footprints. And it's the guy who lived is like, hey man, this thing was on 2 feet. And they're like, well, what are we going to do with that? We're here for beaver. I think most of us would have probably done the same thing. We say we would leave, but when it's your livelihood, when you hear those paranoid voices in your head,
you're like, I just shut up.
I need beaver.
Yeah, it could be a bear. It could be anything. Maybe it's our own feet. You know, who knows? And so they didn't think anything of it. And then the next day, or that night, they heard something moving through the camp. And one of them sticks their gun out and sees this gigantic creature. And it runs off before he can get a good shot at it. But they were really spooked. And I believe it's the next day they're like, okay, we're going to gather our traps and we're going to get out of here. We're not sticking around this place. So they split up. Mistake number one.
Don't split up.
Just watch a horror movie. You
Literally.
stay together.
So, and I think it was early in the day, so they didn't think anything was going to happen. It wasn't dark out. It wasn't spooky. What could go wrong? LOL. So the survivor, he went down, grabbed all the beaver traps, and when he came back up, he found his friend with a snap neck and jaw marks in his neck. And he said that you could see all the footprints that the creature had come up behind him, grabbed him, and then had like rolled all over the body and jumped all over it, which we do know that apes do. They do that as like a ceremonial kind of asserting of their dominance. And so the idea is that this Bigfoot felt threatened, said, this is my territory, you can't come in here. And instead of trying to kill them, it said, I'm going to rummage up your camp, get out of here.
Yeah.
This is your warning.
I tried to warn you.
And then they didn't leave fast enough, and so he killed one of them. And then Theodore Roosevelt heard this story and then wrote it down in the 1800s.
Wow.
A future president.
Yeah.
Yeah, writing about Bigfoot.
So if the moral of the story is, if your camp gets rummaged through, just leave. Don't think, don't write that off. Just leave.
It's a good sign that maybe this is an area you're not supposed to be in.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not a camp. In 1765 in Massachusetts, the Barrington Beast was a large Bigfoot-like creature that would break into people's homes and steal shiny objects. And eventually they hunted it, found it, caught it, brought it back, and said that it had really weird behavior. When it thought it was being watched, it would act crazy. And then when it thought that no one was around, it would be calm.
This sounds like a
Me.
human. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and eventually it escaped, so we don't know officially what happened. Someone let it out. The assistant of one of the researchers let it out. So we don't know what happened to the creature, but yeah, Barrington
Were there
Beast.
sketches of it or
No,
anything?
no. It was colonial times. They didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
They had a revolution to get ready for.
Right, that's true. Yeah, we don't have time to
There
draw
couldn't have
this
been
thing.
more
Yeah.
of a truer statement.
Yes.
They didn't know what they were doing.
Yes. When I was a kid, to go back to the ghosts, I used to have like ghost sightings on my way, like getting ready for school. And I remember one time there was this dark shadow sitting in our 2-story like window that like there was no way there was a human standing up there.
Yeah.
And there it was. And I remember seeing it and being like, I'm late to civics and economics and I have a test today. Like, go away,
Not
demon.
today.
I have things to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's literally what the colonists were doing. They were like, we can't deal with a creature in the woods.
Like, too much.
Yeah, we have to fight Britain.
That's fair. Yeah, so a lot of these have come at inopportune times in history. Revolution, JFK.
We don't have time to deal with this today.
Yes.
Right. How funny.
And I think that allows people to write off Bigfoot because
Yeah.
they go, well, we have other things to worry about. Yeah.
So maybe Bigfoot's paying attention to current events. So there's a lot going on in the world right now. Maybe there's going to be another sighting that gets pushed under the table. My husband and other friends who I have that are Bigfoot enthusiasts talk about branches, things that are like tall, snapped trees, things like
Sure.
that. Is that another sign?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What's hard about that is also trees fall in the
There's,
woods.
Yeah, there are explanations.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I was going to mention it earlier, but again, how do you know the difference? How do you know the
Right.
difference? And maybe a very, very trained person in nature
Yeah.
can probably tell whether it's natural or not natural. I'm a Bigfoot researcher. I'm not a tree researcher.
Right.
And so I can't tell the difference. I don't think the average just person walking through the woods can tell the difference. But
Yeah.
that is something. They break off large logs and then they hit trees. That's
Yeah.
the wood knocking.
Because
Yeah.
I'm open to Bigfoot for sure. But that's always
But
my
not ghosts.
not in the traditional way we think about them.
Mm,
Okay.
okay.
But
Interesting.
I'm the skeptic with Jason's like, oh, look, that tree snapped way up top. I'm like, yeah, that could have been the wind. Like the wind wouldn't do that. Well,
Could have been a
Okay,
bear.
it
Could have
could
been
have,
could
yeah.
have been anything.
Right.
Could have also been a
Bigfoot,
Bigfoot.
yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
A lot of options.
among possibilities.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
I'm not here to advocate for the existence of Bigfoot, but I am here to advocate for an open mind.
Yeah. I
I
think that's great.
I think if people walk through the woods and they go, what could that have
Except
been?
your hat says Bigfoot's real.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Bigfoot's real. If you ask, I will die on that hill,
Yeah.
but I will not expect anyone else to believe anything I say without their own experience of it.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that's how you get critical thinking is you say,
Right.
all right,
Yeah.
hear what I say, ask your own questions,
Right.
and
Make
follow
your own.
up.
Make your own
Absolutely.
assumptions.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
after every talk I've done around Montana, people come up to me and tell me their stories, and I hear things that I go, yeah, and I'm nice to everyone, of
Mm. Yeah,
course,
sure.
because I don't question people's experience.
Right.
But there's some people, and they hear something outside their tent. It was a Bigfoot, and I go, absolutely. And then you have people who go, yeah, this Bigfoot used to come into my barn for 3 years until I shot it, and then it doesn't come around anymore. And I go, okay, that's a little more believable. I'm going to listen to that one a little bit harder. So, yeah, you have to make your own assumption or own
Yeah.
critical thoughts
Right.
about this
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
Ah. So do you go out when you go? It sounds like you don't go out with the intention of
Of course.
I'm going to go
Right.
look for Bigfoot today. You go on your hikes and
Absolutely.
hope it happens.
Hope it happens.
Okay.
Praying.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy that it happened in Missoula, just right at the edge of town,
Uh-huh.
and then in Glacier on just a sunny day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's my spooky
Right.
Yeah.
Like I went on a hike in the Centennial Ridge over in the high woods, and All Trails said it was a 3-hour hike, and it was an 8-hour hike.
Oh,
and
that's a big
We were
difference.
there till like 11 o'clock. Kendall, shout out. She hated it. She was not handling it well in the dark. And I was like, "Where's the Bigfoot here? Where's the Bigfoot?" But we didn't see a bear, which was probably the real concern to
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Right.
Some of the Bigfoot's behavior reminds me a little bit of how I think about mountain lions. Like I often think I have never
Yes.
seen a mountain lion when I've been hiking, but I'm sure I have been seen by a
100%,
mountain lion. And you get
100%.
that kind of the same eeriness that you're talking about, like that, why is the hair on my back
Yes.
raising? I don't see
Yes.
anything, but something's watching me.
Yeah, there's that gut intuition we all have.
Yeah.
And we're in the woods and it's all good vibes and something shifts.
Uh-huh.
And that's that mountain lion feeling. That's so specific. I'm so glad you brought that up. And it is very similar to Bigfoot. And I mean, it could be a mountain lion, could be a
Right.
Bigfoot, could be the killer, you
right.
know?
Yeah.
See, and when I'm in the woods,
A
like,
serial
yeah,
murderer.
Yeah,
hanging
in the
out in
woods.
the
more what
woods.
I'm concerned about. Like, yeah, I don't mountain lions. I don't want an encounter with mountain
Sure.
lion, but I'm more concerned about random people in the woods than animals.
Sure. Hey,
Yeah.
bear spray works for all of the above.
Yeah.
All of the
Yep.
above. Walk with
Yep.
your bear spray.
It does
Yes.
work. Favorite hikes in the area that you've done?
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah, good
I
question.
did one in the Bob Marshall the other day, and I walked out with a ton of ticks. So I'm
Not a
that
favorite of
season.
that one.
not a fan of Tick Gate.
No.
To call back to Nixon. I love Benton Lake. I think it's just so beautiful if you want just a nice little drive.
Yeah.
Love Memorial Falls.
Yeah.
Love the high woods. Yeah. Oh, sluice boxes. I mean, come on. That's the moment.
a great
That's
place.
the one for me. Yeah, if I had to pick one, sluice boxes. But that whole area is just beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
How about food, coffee shops, bars, things to do around here when you're not out exploring for Bigfoot?
Maria's is great. The Mexican
yeah.
cuisine, fabulous. Big fan of that. Love. Oh gosh. Oh, a street burger, a classic.
Yep.
Let me tell you, I'm kind of like I'm from the South, so I'm a fried chicken guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I challenge Great Falls to
come up with some
really
fried chicken.
to really give us the good
Yeah.
the good fried chicken, please.
Yeah.
Please. There's a few places with good chicken in town, but none of that southern cooking
Yeah.
that I'm looking for.
How about you could open a food truck and make some
There you go.
food. deep
Bigfoot's
fry.
chicken.
Yeah.
Bigfoot's
Ooh.
chicken.
There
Okay.
you go. Some more entrepreneurial adventures
Absolutely.
for
Fund
you.
your research.
Yeah.
Do you drink coffee? Favorite coffee shop?
Ooh, Schulte's Coffee. Schulte's Coffee's house.
second
Yes,
shout
they
out
have.
for Schulte.
Yeah.
They have those lotus drinks that are fabulous.
yeah.
I've got heart problems, and so I have to really limit
the caffeine.
my black coffee. But yeah, they've got those lotus drinks, which are the green coffee beans.
Yeah.
And they're fabulous. They're much better for you than coffee, but sweeter, so there's more sugar. It's always something.
Which one's better? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
big fan
gonna
of them.
die of something. I gotta pick what it is. Well,
Yeah.
Bridger, it's been a blast having you
Yeah.
on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Shannon, thanks for finding him.
Oh.
Even though I already knew he existed.
Yeah. You believed and he showed up. Yeah.
Bridger is real.
Yes. Maybe that's what should be your episode time. I'm always looking for little nuggets of what to name
There it
our
is.
episodes.
Yeah,
So
that's a pretty good
Yeah.
one.
Just call it Bigfoot Bridger.
Bigfoot
Yeah.
Bridger is real.
Yeah. And if you want to book me for an event, BigfootBridger@gmail.com.
Hey.
There you go.
Perfect. I hope people do because we want to keep hearing your stories.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you. And folks, we appreciate you listening. It's been a blast.
Tell us about your adventures. If you go on a hike and think that you've encountered Bigfoot, we want to
Yeah,
hear
we
about
want to
it.
hear
We wanna
about
hear
it.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that at our Facebook fan page. We're no damn experts. One person's following. So if
Is
you
that
want, I don't know. I haven't looked at who it
It's
is.
Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Feel free to join the conversation there. We'll talk about you on the podcast. Maybe that's a feature you want in your life, and
Claim
we
to
are
fame.
willing to do that. And if you need information on the things that are happening in Great Falls, visit greatfallsmontana.org. We try to get you all the information you need to know so you can plan ahead for anything and everything in our fair city. And until we see your bright, smiling, happy, healthy, beautiful faces in Great Falls, we hope you are creating amazing memories with your friends and family wherever you might be. See you soon.
We're No Damn Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town.